Hello everyone and welcome to All Things Watched. In this video we are going to talk about the brand new movie Venom The Last Dance, and of course this has Tom Hardy reprising his role as Eddie Brock and becoming once again for the third and potentially final time completing the trilogy, becoming the anti-hero Venom. So a lot of people online were wondering, is this movie good? Is it bad? How is it? How does it hold up to the rest of the franchise? Is it as good as 1? Is it as bad as number 2, Let There Be Carnage? And I would say this. I would say that if you're a fan of the Venom franchise and Tom Hardy's interpretation of Eddie Brock and of course Venom himself, if you like this more anti-hero version of almost goofy but kind of serious version of Venom, then I would say you will absolutely like this movie, but only if you're already a fan of the Venom franchise. If you like the other two, you're going to love this one, in my opinion, and that's only subjective, but I think this is the strongest Venom of the three. I think that, I think the jokes were more appropriate. I think that they landed better, they fit better, but also I think that this movie does take itself a little bit more serious. The story is still not really the best. It's the kind of story that you're probably, already familiar with from the Venom franchise. It is a story that you're probably not going to really remember or really even care about. Where this movie shines is with that quote-unquote bromance between Venom and Eddie himself. And Tom Hardy does a phenomenal job at this, at his portrayal in this third and quote-unquote final time around. I just feel like he did such a phenomenal job playing both Eddie and Venom in this last film that I really think that every time him and Venom were on screen, it really steals the show. I will also say, to my surprise, this movie was actually a little bit more emotional than the other two as well. You really feel the stakes here. The stakes were real, they were high, and there were a couple times in which the story was very emotional, and I really have to give my, sort of tip my hat to Tom Hardy for that, because it's important to remember that we're watching the film and we hear Venom speaking inside of his head, and we see the special effects, the interaction between Eddie and Venom when he comes out, maybe almost on his shoulder and all that kind of stuff, but the reality is Tom does not have that in real life, so he's actually really having a conversation with himself, and the way he portrays both Eddie and Venom in this movie I thought was done in a really clever and really brilliant way. I also have to give kudos and credit when credit is due. The way they utilized the Venom symbiote in this movie I thought was really clever and really smart, and it was definitely something that we haven't seen before. So in terms of the fighting sequences, the choreography, and how Eddie and Venom actually works together during these intense moments and sometimes adrenaline pedal to the metal moments is very unique compared to the other two. I would say the first and second movie was a little more like just kind of hand-to-hand combat, and they did do a few things like like in the first movie, the motorcycle scene, Venom sort of grabs things to save his life, save Eddie's life, and that sort of thing. But in this movie they actually utilize Venom and use that symbiote form, we'll say, to actually change the dynamic of the fight. In a lot of ways you could say whenever Eddie is in a fight in this movie, you actually see Venom being more of an advantage as opposed to just simply being a part of Eddie. So it's almost like they work together in a way that we haven't seen it before. There's one scene in particular that they do show in the trailers where Eddie and Venom is hanging on the outside of the airplane, and of course in the movie something happens where I guess a minor spoiler, but it won't ruin the movie, but there's something happens where Eddie ends up actually falling off of the plane, and they end up having he's going to fall to his death. But how Venom saves him and how the symbiote sort of protects him from the fall, I thought was very clever. You also see in the trailer that the symbiote takes over a horse at one point. I won't say anything other than that scene was really cool in the movie, but the symbiote also takes over other animals that they don't show in the trailer, and I won't ruin it for you, but that whole sequence was also done very, very well. Couple new characters in here that I thought were okay. I think her name is Juno Temple. I believe it was one of the new characters' name in real life. I mean, the actor, I think her name was Juno Temple, and she portrays a character that I think they tried to flush out, but they sort of did it in a pretty basic, generic way. Like they sort of just tell you the backstory right away, and then you just kind of go with it, as opposed to letting that character and that story breathe, as opposed to actually developing her to make you care a little bit more. However, she did have a very important role, and I did really love her portrayal of the character. I just thought that maybe they could have wrote that character a little bit better, but still a great, still pretty cool overall. And I know that a lot of people are wondering, well, is Null in this movie? I mean, we know he's in the movie, but how much of a presence is he in this movie? And I would say that Null in this movie, the movie actually opens literally within the first 30 seconds. The actual opening sequence, the movie opens with Null, and he's here with all these creatures, xenoforms or whatever they call them, and he talks about how he created the symbiotes, but how certain symbiotes have what they call a codex. And so here on Earth, particularly Venom, which they refer to as the black symbiote, actually has a part of that codex, which is sort of the whole reason why these alien creature type things end up coming to Earth to begin with, fighting with Venom and other people, is because they're trying to extract that codex from Venom and from Eddie, because in order for Null to be able to sort of move on with his grand plan, so to speak, because this is a spoiler-free review, I don't want to ruin it for you, he needs his codex. And that's literally the opening scene. You'll see that first. That'll be the first thing you see, is Null talking about this codex and talking about Venom. So he's in the movie in the very beginning, and he's also in the movie basically during the post-credit scenes. There are 2 post-credit scenes. I'm not going to talk about them here in this review, but I will say that I do think the post-credit scenes sort of undermine the movie a little bit, because you go on this really emotional, crazy roller coaster movie, but then I feel like the after-credit scene almost sort of undoes the movie a little bit, almost like it unravels it all within like just the 1 or 2 scenes and all that good stuff. But overall, I really enjoyed the movie. For me, even these things are subjective, I would give this movie a 70%. I do think it's the best of all the 3 movies, maybe even a 75%, but I am biased. I do love comic books, and these are all comic book Blu-rays, and I do love Venom, and I did like this interpretation of Venom, and I would highly recommend you see it if you liked the movies already. But if you didn't, maybe you won't like this one. I'm not 100% sure, but this is the best of the trilogy. So anyways, folks, thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comment section below if you've seen this movie, and if you'd like to tell me why or why not. If you like this video, click that subscribe button, and until the next one, take care.